Welcome to Understanding Conscious Cryptids with me, Khat Hansen. I am bringing you this show in an attempt to educate you about the forgotten creatures and beings that exist alongside of us on this amazing planet that we call home. Many of these hidden beings are elusive and highly intelligent. Our ancient ancestors of North and South America knew of and understood these beings quite well. Many people are coming into contact with these elusive creatures, and they do not have any knowledge or understanding of what it is they are seeing and interacting with. This oftentimes leaves these individuals fearful and confused. It's my intention to shed some light and share knowledge through this series. I am going to help alleviate that fear and confusion. It is time for the light to shine through the darkness. If you are interested in sharing your encounter, contact me directly at khathansen@yahoo.com, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, welcome to Understanding Conscious Cryptids with me, Khat. Well, today is going to be one of those most spectacular days of your lives. Not really. I'm just here to elucidate. You like my word there? It's a big fancy word about the Dogman. Okay? And I kind of wrote out a script because this is going to be a really long lesson. So I just can't fly by the seat of my pants like I usually do. I know it's your favorite part about when I talk and just kind of let it all roll together. But this is really important, and I thought that maybe we needed to really get it out there and understand what we're talking about. So bear with me if it sounds like I'm reading from a script, because ta-da, I am. So I'm going to begin, and I'm serious here. If you are any type of a cryptid hunter or, explorer, or are just doing things in general, I think you might want to take notes here, okay? And I'm just going to jump right in here. All of us have heard the tale of Little Red Riding Hood, that visits her grandma in the woods, only to find that the big bad wolf ate grandma and plans on eating her as well. Yeah, we all know the story, right? Well, in the version our parents told us, the huntsman comes and saves the day, killing the wolf and saving grandma and Little Red. It's a happy ending all around for everyone, except a big bad wolf. But that is the newer version of a fairy tale that has been retold many, many times. Of course, you can't tell a child the original version. Then the big bad wolf eats grandma and Little Red, and they die horrible, agonizing deaths, and the wolf wins. That's a horrible, horrible death. The end. Sweet dreams. You can't tell that to a kid. They'll be lying in there in their bed all night long, horrified and wide-eyed, clutching at their blankets, trying to wonder why we traumatized them for life. But we aren't kids anymore, so how about we just kind of jump back to the very beginning of this whole story, fairy tale, whatever you want to call it, because there are facts that have been hidden inside of this fairy tale. Okay, Little Red Riding Hood is an old story, okay? It's been told many, many times by many, many people, meaning that there are like a handful of different versions of it. In the newer version, the huntsman saves the day, and in another, it's Little Red that stops the wolf by slicing open his belly and stuffing it full of rocks and sewing him back up. I mean, seriously, that's kind of sick and demented if you think about it. Who would sew an animal back up after you put rocks in its guts? But that's the truth, okay? You have some that say Little Red walks through the forest and straight to Grandma's, while in others she's told by her mother not to stray from the path in the woods, because the big bad wolf comes along to tempt Red in those woods. Folklorists and even psychologists have picked this story apart. Okay, I am serious here. This story has been around for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. I know, it's been retold and retold, okay, and they've looked at it so much at each version of this story in an attempt to find all the hidden meanings and the morals that are hidden in it, But believe it or not, it's only a small look into this fairy tale. Okay, there's just, like I said, there's dozens and dozens of these stories from all over the world, not just here in America, not in Germany, not in the UK, all over the world, okay? You have to remember, we're dealing with conscious cryptids here, what I always say, we're understanding them. And these guys are wickedly intelligent beings that can and do come to share our realm with us. Okay, you should know by now that there aren't any wolves that can walk upright on two legs among men, right? And of course, we all know that wolves most certainly do not speak, correct? And if Khat is going to tell you about them, you best make sure that you really want to know. Because especially if there are wolves that walk among men. Oh yeah, not all of those conscious cryptids are nice. Remember I told you, I promised I will be keeping to a new 2019 policy where I forewarned everybody about what I call rip the band-aid off effect. You see, I've taken great pains to make sure that everyone felt really comfortable, that they could sleep safely in their beds when done watching these lessons. Okay? But we've come to the next level. And, well, all I can say is I promised it was going to get a whole lot wilder. And it's about to. Okay? So I think maybe you might want to get ready with your shorthand. Okay? Because this is like really serious. What would you say if I told you that a cryptid, almost every single cryptid hunter was seeking, had been hiding in plain sight? Yeah, I know, hiding in plain sight. You're like, what are you talking about, Khat? Okay. Would you laugh at me if I told you that? Would you call me crazy? Well, perhaps that is my method of teaching you guys. To give enough clues and to wait for someone, anyone, to finally grasp the cord and pull the curtain up. But as of right now, no one has done that. No one's had the wherewithal to do it. So it falls to me to lift the veil. Okay, and when I do this, you guys tend to write me letters saying, what the hell are you doing, Khat? So I'm just going to say, you might want to listen carefully and even hit the pause and rewind if you find this information too overwhelming. It is that important. Okay, if you're, like I said, if you're any type of hunter, it's really important that you understand this. Okay? We're going to talk from the very beginning, and the very beginning is what people are calling werewolves. Okay, they're nothing new in the stories and histories of humanity. What is new this time around is how utterly we seem to have forgotten just how cunning, intelligent, and sophisticated they actually can be. Okay, so the first ones that I want to talk about are cynocephalus. Okay, these are the dog-headed men. And most people, when I say dog-headed, they automatically assume werewolves. Okay, so we're just going to call them that, if that's what you want to call them. Okay? You've heard of them, you've heard of werewolves, but few of you know that these are an ancient race of dog-headed men, better known as the cynocephali. A cynocephalus was essentially a man with the head of a dog. Okay, they could understand language, but they did not have the ability to speak. Though they are sometimes depicted, in artwork as being civilized, they were by all reports savage beasts, okay, who lived to hunt and kill. Oh boy, there's my own dog talking to us while I'm talking about this. Okay, well, this may sound, just like another mythical creature. There are very good reasons to believe that the cynocephali may actually exist. Okay, now, first of all, we're talking about something that we call dogmen, right? So these are dog-headed men that were described in quite a few reports by famous explorers, like Christopher Columbus, Marco Polo. It just is amazing when you stop to go back and study this, because you'll find that Marco Polo, while indirectly describing his own travels, to the islands of the, I can never say this, Enigma, okay, boy, fancy word there. Okay, he said that he was seeing these dog-headed men. Then you have the Greek physician Ctesias, who wrote the following. This is his version of it, and he says, this is his physician Ctesias, that they speak no language, but that they bark like dogs, and in this manner make themselves understood by each other. Their teeth are larger than those of dogs. Their nails are like those of these animals, but longer and rounder. Okay? They inhabit the mountains as far as the river Indus, and their complexion is swarthy. They are extremely just, and like the rest of the Indians with whom they associate, they understand the Indian language, but are unable to converse, only by barking or making signs with their hands and fingers by way of a reply. Kind of interesting there, because I've said that the Stayama use a hand sign language, and that the dogmen do this as well. They live on raw meat, and they number about 120,000. Okay, now this is really interesting when you stop to think about it. Okay, they have actual numbers here. He has given actual numbers for the population located in a specific area. Excuse me. The cynocephali living on the mountains do not practice any trade, but live by hunting. When they have killed an animal, they roast it in the sun. Okay? Now, that's pretty primitive. It really is. But it's a form of, it's the actions, I should say, of a civilized being. Okay? So, I really want to get that across to people. You're not dealing with an animal here. You're dealing with a type of being. Okay? They are intelligent. They also rear numbers of sheep, goats, asses, drinking the milk of the sheep and whey made from it. They eat the fruit of the Sipticora, whence amber is procured, since it is sweet. They also dry it and keep it in baskets, as the Greeks keep their dried grapes. They make rafts, which they load with the fruit together with well-cleaned purple flowers, and 260 talents of amber, okay, with the same quantity of the purple dye, and thousands of additional talents of amber, okay, which they send annually to the king of India. They exchange the rest for bread, flour, and cotton stuffs with the Indians, from whom they also buy swords for hunting wild beasts, bows, and arrows, being very skillful in drawing bow and hurling the spear. They cannot be defeated in war, since they inhabit lofty and inaccessible mountains. Okay, they do not live in houses, but in caves. They set out for the chase with bows and spears, and as they are very swift of foot, they pursue and soon overtake their quarry. Okay, so that right there is pretty amazing. The fact that they anoint themselves 3 times a month with oil made from milk and wipe themselves with skins. The clothes of men and women alike are not skins with the hair on, but skins tanned and very fine. The richest wear a type of linen clothes, but they are few in number. They have no beds, but sleep on leaves or grass. He who possesses the greatest number of sheep is considered the richest, and so in regard to their other possessions. All both men and women, have tails above their hips, like dogs, but longer and more hairy. Okay, they are just and live longer than other men, 170, sometimes 200 years. The dog-headed men were a fierce warrior tribe, but they also traded with the few humans that they trusted. Okay, they were reported to live primarily in India and northern Africa, but were seen in many places in between. Okay, so now I want to stop there for a minute, because I really wanted to let that sink in. We're talking about a society, a group, if you want to call it, a tribe, a clan, a clutch, whatever you want to call it, of beings here Okay, they actually had a physician that put down for the record how many of them there were, and he's talking about their livelihood, how they functioned, what they sent off as payment, tribute to the king. I mean, that's not something made up. That's someone trying, a physician. And you have to remember, back in those times, thousands of years ago, physicians were some of the most intelligent, most highly acclaimed people. So for him to put this to record is really, really something amazing for us, okay? It's a way of keeping the record straight, like I like to say. I want to kind of jump ahead here and talk about the most famous cynocephalic, which is St. Christopher. Now, everybody seems to know who, or what, I should say, what a St. Christopher medal is, okay? We all associate that with the Catholics. But it's so much more than that, okay? St. Christopher is described in several texts as having the body of a man, but the head of a dog. Okay, I know many of you out there have not heard this. You don't really, you just know who he is. You don't really know what he is, okay? And several of these texts describe him, like I said, as having the body of a man, but the head of a dog. Not only that, originally the future saint was said to have been a wild and fierce warrior who was captured in battle in Cyrenaica. But not only was this creature a very large man with a dog's head, he came from a warrior tribe of dog-headed men who looked similar to him. Okay? Accordingly, he eventually met Jesus Christ and learned the error of his former ways. He repented, became baptized, and eventually received sainthood and the gift of human appearance. Multiple historical images show this Saint Christopher as having the head of a dog. Okay, I know. It's so amazing. I knew, because I was brought up Catholic until I was 13. And I remember as a kid, when we studied St. Christopher, and I learned that he was a cynocephalic, I was so happy because I had already had experiences with the dogmen. And it gave me an understanding of them, to be able to look at them more as a type of person, as a type of being, rather than a wild animal, okay? No one really seems to know for sure what happened to this small, powerful race. It's believed that a lot of the empires around them expanded and that they were killed off. And I know in my heart of hearts that there are still some of them that are living, due to crossbreeding. And I believe that they crossbred with other larger wolf types, such as Hagenbeck's wolf. And either way, this being may prove to be a missing link, in the mystery of their existence. Okay? Now, I know I probably shocked the hell out of a lot of you, and I apologize for that. But I told everyone when I started this series that I would be nothing but truthful. And sometimes the truth is shocking, sometimes the truth is scary, and sometimes it's just downright unbelievable. And that's part of being human. We have the ability to accept something and move on, or we have the ability to relegate it to the realms of fantasy, and I don't want to believe that, so therefore it can't exist. And I don't know about you guys, but I sense a lot of people out there are ready to understand. Okay? They're ready to understand that it's a situation, a reality. Since we shifted into this realm, this is a reality that's happened, I think it's really important that before I start jumping around here, that I mentioned that cynocephaly also appears in Chinese legends. These are told in the writings in the history of the Liang dynasty, okay? The writings, the Buddhist missionary Wang Shi describes an island to the east of Fusang, which is inhabited by cynocephalic creatures. Okay, now this island could either be referring to Japan or America. I myself believe it's both, okay? Historian Li Yanshu also described a dog-headed kingdom in the history of the northern dynasties, okay? The repeated appearance of cynocephalic creatures in these various ancient writings and legends and myths, this represents a very common theme in our human history. It would appear very important that our ancestors left this message for us. It's concerning specific population numbers, where these populations lived, how aggressive they were, and could trade be developed and maintained, as well as treaties. Okay? It would appear that all this record keeping that was done was for naught. As over the centuries we forgot these people, we relegated them and their cultures to the ranks of mythology and fables. Okay, so right there, it's just one of those things where it turns into, they tried to leave us some information and it didn't work. It just did not work. And I don't understand why, but I'm thinking that at some point, because of all the wars and like the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, things like that, we lost a lot of information that was valuable to us, and I mean, it's not like it was a library book that got, left behind or something, because this was really something that was also verbally handed down. So it was written and verbally handed down to us. So it's kind of interesting to think or imagine what else was lost, if we don't have this information anymore. Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead here a little bit, and I know you probably need to stretch and do some things, and that's fine. And you're probably going, what the hell are you talking about, Kat? I told you guys this is going to be a long lesson, because it's really important for me to put out there what you guys need. And if I don't put it out there straight, then it gets twisted, and other people take what I'm saying and warp it, and then it's completely lost. So I'm sharing knowledge with you that I feel is very important, okay? And it's my own studies that have led me to understand this culture, okay? One of the great enigmas in the world of canid zoology is the case of Hagenbeck's wolf. Okay, now you're going to hear me talk about this a lot, because I already did one video on this, but I kind of want to weave it into this narration that I'm giving you guys, okay? Hagenbeck's wolf is a proposed species that is based upon one single pelt, okay? The pelt came from an animal dealer in Argentina who sold it to Lorenz Hagenbeck in 1926. Hagenbeck claimed that there were 4 such skins, but he purchased only one. Okay, that's all he had money for. The dealer claimed that it came from a wild dog that lived in the Andes. Okay, now, if you know anything about migration and the ability of animals hunting for food source, the Andes would take some time, but they could migrate from the Andes to South and Central America on up through to America, okay? This pelt was sent to Germany and wound up in the museums of Munich. In 1940, a zoologist named Ingo Krumbeigel examined the pelt. The pelt's color was black and the fur was much longer than other canids from the region, and he assumed that it belonged to an undescribed montane species of maned wolf. Okay? So right there, we've got someone looking at it who is actually, understanding of the species wolves. Okay, canid lupus. He's understanding of them, okay? And Krumbeigel, he ignored the pelt until 1947 when he began looking at it again, okay? And in that year, he learned from Lorenz Hagenbeck, the man who had originally bought it, that there were 3 other pelts just like it. That got Krumbeigel thinking, okay? He had received a skull from the Andes. He had thought the skull belonged to a maned wolf, but it was much larger than any maned wolf he had ever examined or read about. Okay? So now this should have you going, this is interesting. Okay? He thought that maybe this skull came from the same species as the one with the black pelt. It measured over 30 centimeters in length, and while the typical maned wolf skull is only 25 centimeters in length. So that really got him wondering, okay? He began to reconstruct the animal from the skin, okay? The mane on the neck of the pelt was 8 inches long. He noticed that the legs were a lot shorter than the typical maned wolf, which is a creature of open woodland and grassland habitats, and uses its long legs to help it see, hear, and smell over the tall grass. Okay, now, right there, I want to throw out there that there are hundreds of reports of dogmen and their mane around their head, making them look almost like a lion or a hump. Okay? So there's our first clue. Krumbeigel thought the animal was unique enough that it deserved its own genus. Okay? Bernard Heuvelmans, the most famous guy in cryptozoology, thought if Hagenbeck's wolf really was that similar to the maned wolf, then it might more properly be classified as part of Chrysocyon. The big maned wolf skull was lost during the war. Okay, so now we're kind of screwed here because he had the skull. Okay, so Krumbeigel was unable to make additional measurements of it that we really could have used. But we do have that report that he did, the original report right there, telling us that, all this information. Okay? Now, the skull was lost, but in 2000 there was an attempt to do a DNA test on that pelt. Remember the pelt that I told you he had bought? Okay, but the researchers were unable to get uncontaminated DNA from it. Okay, and I want to say something right there. I've said this before. It was really quite fascinating about the DNA, because the DNA that came back from this in 2000 was human, pig, and wolf. Okay? That's really weird. The pelt had been chemically treated, making recovery of DNA from it quite difficult. Okay? Now, I'm just going to throw this out there, and I know all y'all are going to say, Kat, you're crazy. First of all, my voice is going, and I apologize. I love my voice. It's part of the joy of MS here. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So I feel like a 13-year-old boy going through puberty. Okay? Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. Sorry about that. Okay? If you stop to think about it, okay, just follow my trail of thought here if you can. I know it's convoluted, twisted, sick, warped, wicked. That's me, okay, all in a nutshell. Okay? So, the DNA comes back as human, pig, and dog. Wolf, okay? So, we are actually able to transplant pig organs into human beings and use them. Okay, so they're one of the animals, creatures that we are compatible with, crossing with. Okay, and then we have a wolf thrown into that mix. it makes me wonder if anyone has ever done experiments, because I wasn't able to find any, if anyone has ever done experiments on humans receiving or being able to have transplanted organs or other pieces of body, skin, tissue, things like that. I'm really fascinated with this, and not because I want to see it done, but it leads back into what I've talked about before with the conscious cryptids and the fallen angels and everybody being delegated to their own realms. And it's just one of those things where it's so important that we understand what was happening with that DNA, because that is the weirdest thing to come back as human, pig, and wolf. Okay, seriously, that's kind of really weird. And when I first heard it, I'm not gonna lie, I stayed up for 2 days. It made my brain spin. Okay, it's been suggested that the large skull that Krumbeigel examined belonged to a German Shepherd, and that he extrapolated all of his analysis off a skull belonging to a domestic dog. Okay, I want to address that. Okay, I think it's a bunch of crap. Krumbeigel lived in Nazi Germany, where German Shepherds were like highly prized dogs. Okay, they were heavily studied. They were interbreeding them. He would have known the difference between a German Shepherd or a wolf skull, and that belonging to a South American wild dog. Okay, I'm serious here. It's when you get to this point, you're just scratching your head, going, "What the hell were these people doing, and why are they trying so hard to debunk his research?" Okay, no one tried to extract DNA from this anomalous pelt since 2000. Okay, it's been ignored. Nobody wants to deal with it. And I'm telling you right now, we have a lot better techniques almost 20 years later than we did, and I really think that they need to try to do this again. I'm serious here. As a heart attack, people, I mean, I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Cat wants to know. Okay, maybe this animal really is a montane-maned wolf or some other undescribed canid. I mean, that I don't even know about. Montane wolves do rarely come in black. And on occasion, this could be suggestive of a relationship. Okay, maybe they are. Maybe it was a closer relative of the extinct Falkland Islands wolf than the maned wolf, which is currently listed as its closest relative. We don't know. We need them to pull this pelt out and study it. I'm serious, because we need to understand this creature, okay? If we really don't know the truth, if we were to find out that it was something like I'm talking about here, a dogman, this question would put right there to an end, whether or not this animal really exists, okay? And that's exactly what I'm proposing here. I'm telling you guys, I'm not trying to scare the crap out of you, and I'm not trying to make you have nightmares, and I'm not trying to spin your heads. I just need you guys to understand my train of thought here when I'm researching, okay? First of all, I'm going to thank you for hanging in there so far. It's about to get real weird real fast. It usually does when I'm dealing with conscious cryptids, okay? We've given this race that I've been talking about a new name, okay? And if you're following the pictures in this video, then you're going to understand where I'm leading, okay? We've given this race a new name. We're going to call them dogmen, like I said, okay? There have been quite a few reported interactions with the dogmen. So much so that you cannot turn on YouTube without seeing at least one video, one channel devoted to stories or videos or legends of these beings, okay? But for all the supposed knowledge being gathered and shared, no one has addressed certain issues, okay? And I think it's about time that they were addressed, so that speculation flying around out there can finally come to somewhat of an end, and we can begin a new path of understanding of this conscious cryptid, okay? And that's exactly what we're dealing with here, okay? We have dogmen that I've been talking about here, the cynocephalic, okay? These beings are amazing. And if you've ever had any interactions with these or run into them as a cryptid hunter and you scratching your head, I'm going to give you guys some information, okay, that I learned a long time ago as a kid, okay? Boy, it's a hard one too, okay? It's because I really don't want you guys clicking off and going, oh my God, she's gone off the deep end. Well, at least I brought my floaties, right? I got my little arm floaties so I can float here in the deep end. That's okay. Yeah, the water's fine if anyone else wants to join me. I want to talk about where they begin, okay? And there's my dog again. He's got to chime in on this. Babies. Everybody begins as an infant, right? Even dogmen, okay? That's where we all begin, okay? They start out as pups. They're a little bit larger than your average pup. And their parents, the ones who walk on two legs, place them fairly high up in the trees on sturdy branches. And this is going to sound crazy, but they use their tails and their claws to hang on. And they put them in the crooks, the strongest, sturdiest branches. I know what you're thinking here. You're going, wow, Kat, really, a dog can climb? Yeah, they can. You must understand something, that these are not dogs. The name is inappropriate for these beings. They are more like a wolf, a werewolf type, but not really. They're just upright walking wolves with appendages that resemble large fingers with hardened nails that actually are a form of claw, very sharp. Most likely, they're most like cats. They use them for digging and climbing. I know that many of you are probably shaking your heads right now in disbelief, but I assure you that if you research a little bit, you will find that there are almost 100 sightings of wolves coming down out of the trees. Okay? They have determined that this is the best place for their young while they are out hunting. Okay? Once the young are able to climb and walk, they're allowed pretty much to roam. You must think of this part like their growth cycle as resembling all pups that are allowed to wander around, even foxes, wolves, coyotes, while the mother is a short distance away, always keeping an eye on them because this is what they do. Okay, this is how they're, trained, how they're taught to function, okay? Not very many sightings have been recorded of the pups, but there have been sightings of what people like to call chupacabras. Yes, that is what I'm saying. Here's my big word, and elucidating here, people are seeing dogmen pups and mistaking them for chupacabras. Okay, I know, everybody take a breath. Stop throwing things at the computer. Quit turning the air blue because you're wondering what I'm doing and cussing at me. Okay? I know many of you cryptid hunters out there are going to be throwing a fit, but I actually can give you some kind of proof. Okay? It's really important that, I don't know. I can show you the proof, okay, and I really want you to not hate me. Don't make me be your least favorite teacher here after what I show you, okay? I can show you the proof of what I'm saying, and all you have to do is just keep paying attention to the pictures here in the video because I've done the research for you, okay? And I want to show you, okay? Dogmen have fingers, like I said. Chupacabras, not so much so. As I said, this allows them to climb and dig, okay? Do not misunderstand me. Chupacabras do exist, but what has been shown so far as a chupacabra is actually a dogman pup. They really do not start walking upright and functioning as a bipedal animal until they are over 2 years of age, okay? At which point they are able to control the center of balance and walk upright. Okay, so that's pretty much like a little bit longer than humans, okay? Because humans crawl and then we start walking about a year and a half. Okay, these guys take 2 years, okay? The next issue I would like to address is their speech. There was a time when they did not have the ability to speak, but over a longer period of time, they have apparently learned to speak. You know, they've learned language, spoken language. I know it's a horrible thought, and it's mind-bending thought, but it is the truth. They are able to speak, and we are able to understand them. You know, they do not hunt in packs unless they have an alpha that is strong enough to hold them together as a group. And usually, when it is the alpha, they're the ones who retain the speech, okay? They're the ones that hold everything together. And for them to be able to hunt in a pack, they have to have an alpha that's strong enough to hold them together as a group, okay? Most likely, though, they're a solitary or family unit, okay? As adults, they sleep in the trees, just like the babies, where they put the babies for safekeeping, okay? Think of them almost as a cross between a cougar and a wolf and a human being. I know it's a horrible chimera, and our brains are having a hard time wrapping around, as we are supposed to be the only upright thinking, you know, bipedal on this planet. But as you know, dealing with the conscious cryptids, it is impossible to keep that thought. Okay, we have to have a new mindset here. Okay, these cryptids are evolving before our very eyes and have been for the last 5,000 years. I want to say 5,000 plus years. Okay, they've been hiding in plain sight, and this is the best way of preserving their species. Okay, if you stop to think about it, there are a lot of species that hide in plain sight. Okay, and dogmen are one, steama are others. We have actual creatures that we deal with. We can buy in pet stores, chameleons that hide in plain sight, turtles, tortoises, you know, all kinds of animals can hide in plain sight, and we can't see them, okay, unless they move or they want us to see them. And that's what this species has done. They have evolved to the point now where they are very cunning, very intelligent, and very conscious. And in being conscious, sometimes that makes them dangerous to us. Okay? So I'm going to end this part of the lesson because I know I've given you guys a massive amount of information to wrap your brains around. I know you're probably going to be studying the pictures under a microscope, which is perfectly fine. But just keep in mind out there that as we are supposed to be the only bipedal, upright, talking, thinking, functioning intelligence on this planet, we're not anymore. And we really need to stop and think about that. And then we need to realize that as human beings, sometimes we create enemies. And in hunting dogmen, I think that there are certain people out there that are creating enemies out of them. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you to my patrons for your continued support. It really means a lot to me. Thank you. If you're interested in this kind of thing, you can push the like button, hit the bell, do whatever you want there. Subscribe to me. If you subscribe to me, I can't even say the word today, subscribe to me, you'll get a lot of crazy videos like this. And as I said, it's about to become a wild ride because the Band-Aid's been pulled off, and the things that are going to start being posted here either will give you nightmares and you'll be terrified to come back onto this channel, or you'll be able to stop, think, and listen, and maybe gain something from what I have to teach. Anyway, I want to thank you all, and I hope that you all have a wonderful